There was this file on a really professional lawyer named Jennifer Pann. This girl managed two completely different lives for her family with big lies. And after all those lies, she did something with her parents that shocked everyone. How could someone handle so many lies and be so organized? I'm sure you'll be surprised too. Han and Vic, both born and raised in Vietnam, moved to Canada as refugees when they reached their youth. They met there, got married, and although their financial situation was very weak, they were both very hard-working people. They started working and saving in 1986. They had their first child, a daughter named Jennifer. 3 years later, a son named Felix was born. Because they had grown up in a very difficult circumstances, they didn't want their children to experience the same. They wanted to provide everything they didn't have for their two children. So they worked very hard and never spent on themselves, so they could save up. They succeeded in buying a very nice house with very good cars, and everything was going great. The only problem was that they were very strict. They expected their children to be the best in everything. They controlled everything: where they went, with whom, what they eat, and what they studied, what their grades and they got. Everything was under their control. They forced Jennifer to play the piano since she was 4 years old. Their grades and marks were there and red lines. They had already determined their fields of study. Felix was supposed to become a mechanical engineer and Jennifer a doctor. The problem was that amidst all this, her parents didn't know some things. For example, Jennifer's grades were not as good as she claimed. Medicine is for those who are good at their studies. But she was a completely average student. But to avoid her parents' criticism, she falsified her report cards. She had done this so many times that she had become a professional at it. Jennifer had no right to do anything other than the study. They controlled her from school to home and were afraid she would be boyfriend, a boy, and fall behind in her studies. She felt imprisoned, felt she couldn't do anything that her peers did except the stress of falsifying her report cards, which put a lot of pressure on her life. Felix faced the same strictness, but because his grades were really good and he was a very polite boy, he couldn't bear these pressures too much until Jennifer, at the age of 17, met a boy in a school named Daniel Wang, who was a year older than her. They got acquainted in the school music group where Jennifer played the flute and Daniel played the trumpet. They practiced a lot together, and in 2003, during a school trip, Jennifer and Daniel fell in love. They entered a romantic relationship, completely secretive, as her parents should never find out. Some time later, Jennifer got accepted to a very good university, but unfortunately, one of her math courses dropped, leading to the cancellation of her admission. Still, she couldn't tell her parents about the cancellation. They were very angry, but she decided not to speak. She forged the acceptance letter and gave it to her parents. Her father was very happy and said he wanted her to become a doctor, unaware that she hadn't even graduated high school. She told him she could but didn't want to become a doctor. He asked her to become a pharmacist instead. According to the Forget letter, she was supposed to go to Ryerson University for 2 years and then transfer to the University of Toronto. In these 2 years, she pretended to study and played her role well. On days when she had classes, she worked as a waitress in a restaurant to save money. Besides, she had another job teaching piano to kids. which her parents were aware of. These 2 years passed, and one day her father went to her and asked her how her transfer to the University of Toronto was going. Jennifer thought it was the best time to separate from her family and live life as she wanted. She said, "Yeah, I got accepted. I want to go. There's just one problem. It's far away, and I can't come home every day. I'll have to move into my friend's house." Her friend was Topaz, a good girl, Hen and Big knew, but she went to the Daniels' house. 4 years had passed since her university enrollment, and it was time for her to graduate. With Daniel's help, she found someone to forgive a fake diploma. Then she told her family, "I got hired at the lab, and I still can't come home. I'll stay at my friend's place, Topaz." Her family became suspicious and called Topaz, who denied everything, saying she was never there. They pressed her with questions, and she realized she had no choice but to start confessing. She admitted she had been living with Daniel, never went to the University of Toronto, and didn't work at the lab. Her parents were having heart attacks. They were furious. They had already been pressuring her, and now they took her phone and laptop, forbidding her from contacting Daniel or working at the restaurant. They even made her resign from her job and restricted her to teaching piano to their students, monitoring her every move. Despite all this, whenever she got a chance, she would still go to see Daniel. Life had become so hard for her that in 2009 she posted on Facebook saying her home was like a prison. Her father once told her, "I must die you for to live for you want. As long as I'm alive, you have to do what I say." Daniel told her she had endured a lot. If it were anyone else in her place, they would have killed their parents by now. The idea stuck with Jennifer. From this simple sentence, the plan to kill her parents with Daniel's help began to take shape. They decided to hire a hitman to come to their house and kill her parents. Then Jennifer would take her parents' money and start a new life with Daniel. Daniel gave a prepaid SIM card with an iPhone so they could coordinate their actions there. Then Jennifer introduced two of her acquaintances, Lena Craft and David, to Daniel. They received $10,000 from Jennifer and Daniel. David and Leonard agreed, and Jennifer unlocked the door for them. They entered the house with another guy named Eric. Jennifer's statement to the police was, "I was sitting in my room when I heard several people coming. A guy entered my room and forced me to take the cash from home, which was 2.5 thousand from piano lesson and $11,000 from my mother's sandwiches. Then they tied my hands with shawls and shot my parents. Then they left." Jennifer made a take call to the police with fake crying.
What's your name?
My name is Jennifer.
Someone just broke in?
Someone broke in and I heard shots like pops. I don't know what's happening. I'm tied upstairs.
Does it sound like gunshots?
I don't know what a gunshot sounds like. I just heard a pop. I'm okay. My dad just went outside screaming.
Do you think your mom is downstairs too?
I don't hear her anymore.
A few seconds later, a scream was heard from the bathroom. It was her father's voice. Fortunately, he didn't die. After being transferred to the hospital, Hen fell into a coma and Bick died. The police interrogated Jennifer again, questioning why the door was unlocked and why they didn't shoot Jennifer.
The banister? Okay, so now how can you get to the phone? And how do you make the phone call? 911? And do you talk down like that?
Yes, I'm yelling at the phone like this.
And how can you hear?
I turned the volume on max.
Yes?
A few days later, Pann came out of the coma. Despite his injuries, he remembered everything from that night. He told the police that Jennifer's hands were not tied, and she was walking around with the guys, talking to them casually. The police interrogated Jennifer once more, but this time it lasted for 9 hours. She confessed, but she wanted to pin the blame on her parents. The police realized she was still lying.
I want to see how you could physically get your phone out of your waistband. We're obviously going to need to know that. It's very important. We know you made the phone call, but questions are going to obviously raise is that if my hands are bound and I'm against the railing, how do I talk to a 911?
Jennifer was arrested and the guys were found. The trial took place on March 19, 2014, and it lasted for 10 months. They were all sentenced to life in prison except for Eric, who confessed to his crime for the beginning and got 18 years. The case was closed. If you're into crime stories and documentaries, subscribe to our channel because we'll be posting loads of videos every day.